we were all making calls because we wasn't sure what happened. We didn't know what happened. When we made the call to the hospital, they didn't have her body, and all the nurse could tell us was we needed to get down there ASAP. So, we had to gather money together to go to Georgia. Prior to going to Georgia, we did find out that my daughter, Lexus, she goes by Jimani on social media platforms, that she had been shot 3 times. So we're thinking at first, that maybe it wasn't as serious. It was serious because it's shot, but we later found out that my daughter was shot 7 times. And the anger and the rage, it's still in my heart.
She was 28 years old. She had 2 sons, a dream, a laugh that could fill a room without even trying. And on the night of February 12th, 2026, while her boys slept just down the hall, she was murdered inside the one place that was supposed to keep her safe, her own home. Her name is Lexus Antrom. And before we talk about what happened to her, I need you to understand exactly who she was. Because what was lost that night was not just a life. It was a force of nature. If you ever walked into a room and immediately felt it shift, you know what kind of person Lexus was. Her mother, Tunisia Seals, called her an outspoken giver. Not just kind, not just loud, both. At the same time, the woman who told you the truth and then showed up at your door to help you through it. That is a rare kind of person. Rarer than most of us ever realize until they are gone. She grew up in Columbus, Georgia, and when her brothers were struggling, when the weight of life felt like too much, they did not call their friends. They called Lexus. Not because she had answers, because she had presence. The kind that makes you feel like you can breathe again just by being in the same room. And her boys, a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old who were, without question, the entire reason she woke up every single morning. Every goal she set, every dream she held onto, every plan she made, it all led back to them. She was building something. A life that felt big and full and safe for the 2 kids she loved more than anything on this earth. She also wanted to be a musician, an actress. This was not a passing daydream. She believed it. She had the charisma, the presence, the kind of magnetism that cameras are drawn to. The people around her believed it too. She was the type of person who made you feel like anything was possible just by standing next to her. In the days before she died, she and Tunisia were planning a family trip. Nothing extravagant, just time. Together, her boys, her mother, away from the noise of everyday life. She was excited, and that trip never happened. Lexus shared that house on Gardiner Drive with her husband, 22-year-old Kevon Davenport, 6 years younger than her. And from the outside, it probably looked like 2 young people figuring out life together. Bills, responsibilities, the friction that comes with sharing a space and a life. But something else was happening inside those walls. The arguments had escalated. And I want to be careful here because I am not saying conflict alone is a crime. But what was happening on Gardiner Drive had reached a level that could no longer stay contained between just 2 people. And here is how I know that. At some point, Davenport reached out directly to Tunisia Seals, Lexus's mother. He called her to talk about the problems in their relationship. I need you to really hear that. He called her mother. That is not what people do when things are slightly tense. That is what happens when a situation has already grown beyond what 2 people can hold on their own. That is a sign, a signal, a flare going up into the sky. Tunisia tried to stay neutral. She gave the advice that most people in her position would give. that adults need to work through their relationships themselves. She stepped back. She did not push, and she will carry that decision every single day for the rest of her life. But here is the detail in this story that is almost too painful to speak out loud. Tunisia Seals is not a stranger to this kind of violence. She had already lived through the worst possible version of it. Tunisia lost her own parents to a domestic violence murder-suicide. She had already stared this darkness directly in the face. She already knew exactly what it was capable of. And still, it came for her daughter. That is not her fault, not even close. But grief does not care about fairness. It will hand you every single what if, regardless of whether you deserve to carry it. The tension on Gardiner Drive kept building. Quietly, invisibly. Behind walls, the rest of the neighborhood had no reason to look twice at. Until it couldn't hold for one more second. It is 4 a.m. on February 12, 2026. Think about what 4 a.m. actually feels like. The streets are empty, the world is off. Your guard is completely down. Nobody is bracing for anything at 4 a.m. That hour belongs to silence, to sleep, to safety. Columbus is asleep. The 4500 block of Gardiner Drive is still and dark. Porch lights glowing softly. A neighborhood full of people who have absolutely no idea what is about to happen just a few doors down. Inside that house, something is very wrong. We do not know the exact words that were said. We do not know what pushed it over the edge. What we know is that the tension that had been quietly building inside those walls, for weeks, maybe longer, finally broke. And when it broke violently. Multiple gunshots shatter the silence. Neighbors jolt awake. That terrible split second of confusion. Was that real? Followed by the kind of stillness that tells your body the answer before your mind catches up. Then the scramble, lights on, phones grabbed, 911 calls flooding in all at once. Columbus police already moving through the dark toward Gardiner Drive. When they arrive, they find Lexus Antrom on the floor. She has been shot multiple times. This was not a stranger. This was not a dark alley or a random attack somewhere she should not have been. This was her husband, in her home. The same home where she made breakfast for her kids. The same walls she walked through every single day believing she was safe. The same house where, right down the hall, her 7-year-old and her 13-year-old were sleeping. She did not have to go anywhere dangerous that night. She was already home. Officers and paramedics work frantically, but some wounds cannot be undone. At 4:50 in the morning, Muscogee County Coroner Buddy Bryan makes it official. Lexus Antrom is pronounced dead, 28 years old. I am not going to gloss over this part. I refuse to. A 7-year-old and a 13-year-old were inside that house when the shots rang out. Not across town, not at a relative's house. They were there, in the same home. Close enough to hear every single shot. Close enough to know something was terribly wrong before any adult in the world could reach them to explain it. Try to imagine that as a real experience and not just a detail in a news story. You are a child. It is the middle of the night. The person you love most in this world is just down the hall. And the sound that just tore through your sleep, somewhere in your body, that it means everything is different now. The 7-year-old is barely old enough to understand death, but he is old enough to remember. He will carry the sounds of that night in his body long after he ever has the words to describe them. The 13-year-old understood exactly what happened, in real time, at 13 years old, and that kind of clarity, at that age, is its own devastating, irreversible thing. Those boys did not just lose their mother that night. They lost the version of the world where she was always just down the hall and everything was going to be okay. That version of the world closed, before the sun even came up. The Columbus Police Department's Violent Crimes Unit moved fast. The evidence came together quickly, and it pointed in one direction. Detectives established probable cause. Warrants were drawn. And on February 13th, just one day after Lexus was killed, officers walked into Piedmont Columbus Regional Hospital and arrested Kevon Davenport while he was still in a hospital bed recovering from a gunshot wound to his own leg. He was charged with murder and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. Some early reports raised the possibility of a self-defense claim. Law enforcement was firm. The investigation made clear who the victim was in that house on the night of February 12th. It was Lexus Antrom, not the aggressor, the victim. As of the time of this video, there has been no public confirmation of his release, which strongly suggests he remains held at Muscogee County Jail as the legal process moves forward. Before I tell you what Tunisia Seals said, I need you to understand who she is when she walks up to that microphone. This is not a woman who is unfamiliar with grief. This is a woman who has lived inside it. A woman who already lost her own mother and father to domestic violence, who already had to pick herself up from the worst possible version of this exact nightmare and keep going, who already knows, in the most intimate and devastating way a human being can know something, exactly what this kind of violence takes from a family, exactly what it leaves behind. She survived that. She rebuilt. She raised a daughter. And now she is standing in front of cameras because that same darkness came back. And this time, it took Lexus. I want you to really feel the weight of that moment, because it would have been completely understandable if Tunisia had stayed home, if she had kept the curtains closed and let someone else speak. Nobody would have blamed her. Nobody would have said a word. But she did not stay home. She walked out. She stood up. And with the kind of steadiness that could only come from a woman who has already survived the unsurvivable, she spoke. She said nothing will bring Lexus back, that she does not want explanations or excuses. She wants justice, and she wants it served. And then, she looked directly into the camera, and she said, "It is okay to leave." 5 words, no script, no press release, no prepared talking points handed to her by a publicist, just a mother, standing in the open wreckage of her worst nightmare, looking into a lens and speaking directly to whoever might be sitting at home right now, scared, and not yet sure if they have permission to walk out the door. She was not performing strength. She was strength. The kind that gets forged in the kind of fires most of us will never know. The kind that does not roar or announce itself. The kind that just holds, even when everything around it is ash. Tunisia Seals has buried her parents to this violence, and now she has buried her daughter to it. And instead of collapsing inward, which no one on this earth could fault her for, she turned her pain outward. She aimed it like a light, pointed it at every person who might still have time to change their story. That is not bravery for an audience. That is a mother, bleeding in public, choosing love over silence. Even now, even after everything, especially after everything.
For people to sound like trumpet. The deadly crisis arrives first, we will remain. Shall be put up to meet her in our Father in the air. We want to say to your family, thank you so much for allowing us to serve you during this difficult hour of bereavement. We will be keeping you in our prayers in the difficult days, weeks, and months to come. Those gentlemen that served as paupers may step right in and slide.
I want to tell you something that I genuinely wish was not true. Lexus Antrom is not the only one. She is not the only mother who was killed inside her own home by someone who was supposed to love her. She is not the only woman whose children heard things no child should ever hear. She is not the only daughter whose mother is now left to carry a grief so heavy it has no name. She is one of thousands. Every single year in this country, thousands of women do not survive the person they loved. Thousands of families get a knock on the door or a phone call or a moment where everything that came before it becomes the before. And almost every single time, the story had the same shape. Tension that built so slowly, it felt almost normal. Warning signs that people saw but did not know how to act on. a line that eventually got crossed that could never, ever be uncrossed. That is what makes this so hard to sit with, because it is never sudden. Not really. It creeps. It disguises itself as a rough patch, as a stressful season, as two people who just need to figure things out. It borrows the language of ordinary relationships and wears it like a costume. And by the time the mask comes off, by the time everyone around it finally sees it clearly for what it is sometimes already too late. The signs were here. They were visible. Arguments that had grown serious enough to pull other people in. A call to a mother that no husband makes unless something has already gone very wrong. A tension that lived inside those walls long enough for multiple people to feel it pressing against them. People felt it, and feeling it was not enough to stop it. That is the part that stays with me, because I do not think the people around Lexus were careless or indifferent. I think they did what most of us do. They hoped. They gave space. They told themselves it was complicated, that it was not their place, that things would settle down on their own. That is an almost universal human instinct, to not want to interfere in something you cannot fully see. But here is what I need you to hear. If someone in your life has gone quiet in a way that worries you, reach out. Not with a grand intervention, not with an ultimatum, just a text, just a coffee, just a simple, "Hey, are you okay?" Asked in a way that makes it clear you actually want the real answer. Sometimes the most powerful thing one person can do for another is make them feel like they are allowed to tell the truth. And if you are the one living inside something that scares you, if there is a voice in your head that has been trying to tell you something is wrong, and you have been talking yourself out of listening to it, please listen to it. That voice is not dramatic. It is not overreacting. It knows something. It has been watching things you have been trying not to see. Tunisia Seals tried to stay out of it. She stepped back. She gave them space. And she is standing on the other side of that decision right now. She is not telling you what to do because it is easy. She is telling you because she already paid the price of staying silent, and she does not want you, or anyone watching this, to pay it too. Do not wait for it to get worse before you take it seriously. For far too many people, worse never gets the chance to get better. Justice will come. And when it does, it will mean something. It will matter. It will be necessary. But it will not be enough. It never is. It will not put Lexus in the bleachers at her son's first high school game, screaming his name louder than anyone in the stands. It will not put her in the front row the night her youngest graduates. It will not give her the stage she dreamed about, the light she deserved, the moment where the world finally got to see everything she had been carrying inside of her. It will not bring back the family trip she and Tunisia had been so excited about, the one they were still planning just days before everything changed. Simple plans. A mother and her boys, time together, gone before it ever had the chance to happen. Her 7-year-old will grow up and one day ask questions that nobody will know how to answer. He will grow into a man carrying a wound he received before he was old enough to understand it. Her 13-year-old already carries the full weight of what he knows and what he heard and what he understood in real time, in the dark, at an age when no child should have to understand anything like that. He will spend the rest of his life learning how to live alongside something that should never have been his to carry. And Tunisia Seals, a woman who has already survived what most people cannot even bring themselves to imagine, now holds this too. A daughter. Gone. Taken by the exact same darkness that once swallowed her own parents whole. The same violence, the same senselessness, the same unbearable aftermath. And yet she got up. She walked out of her house. She stood in front of cameras. She opened her mouth and she spoke, not because it was easy, but because she refused to let Lexus become just another story that people forgot about in a week. She turned her grief into something that might still save someone. She made her pain mean something, even when meaning something costs everything. I do not know how a person does that. I only know that it deserves to be witnessed. Lexus Antrom wanted to stand in the light. That was all she wanted. To stand in the light, do the things she was born to do, and have her boys in the front row watching her. She wanted ordinary things too. Breakfast with her kids, phone calls with her mother, the kind of quiet Tuesday morning that you never think to be grateful for until it is gone. She wanted to grow old. She wanted to be there, for every milestone, every moment, every ordinary and extraordinary thing her sons were ever going to reach. She deserved every single bit of that. And the world is smaller without her in it. A little less warm, a little less bright. The kind of loss you feel even if you never knew her name, because people like Lexus are rare, and the world does not make enough of them to afford to lose them this way. Her boys will grow up one day, and I genuinely hope, that when they do, they find this. That they sit down somewhere quiet and they watch it and they learn, in full, exactly who their mother was. Not the headline, not the case number. Her. The woman who showed up for everyone. The dreamer. The force of nature who changed the energy of a room just by walking into it. The mother who loved them like they were the whole world, because to her, they were. I hope they carry her forward. I hope she lives in everything they do. And to anyone watching this right now who recognized something in this story, something a little too familiar, a little too close to home, I am not going to tell you what to do. You already know. That quiet voice that has been trying to get your attention, the one you have been talking yourself out of, it is not being dramatic. It is not overreacting. It has been watching, and it has been waiting for you to be ready to listen. Lexus deserved the chance to choose herself. You still have yours. Please take it. If this story moved you, if Lexus's life meant something to you after watching this, the most powerful thing you can do right now is make sure more people see it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Every single view, every share, every new subscriber means this story travels further. It means Lexus's name reaches more people. It means Tunisia's words, "It is okay to leave," land in front of someone who needed to hear them today. This channel exists to make sure people like Lexus are never just forgotten. If you believe that matters, be part of it. Her name deserves to be remembered. Help us make sure it is. Rest in peace, Lexus Antrom. Your light deserved so much more time.